Prologue. New patient. Welcome to a new start, a new world. Welcome to Warehouse 22. A big burly man stands in an empty boardroom, his hands gesticulating every word he says in an important whisper. I sit on a blue padded chair in a room with 3 other men listening to the burly man's script. I think I can see their name tags, although my vision isn't what it used to be. I squint around and one name tag comes into vision. James, got 1. Ralph, that's 2. And Dennis. As new employees of REDACTED, along with amazing benefits, what a load of shit, I think, you get a brand new REDACTED 4.5, the new car of the future today. This company ran their popularity into the ground in 2025. You can probably find a REDACTED 3.5 abandoned on the streets. So a 4.5 will be abandoned around the streets next year. I give a slight, short, breathy chuckle at his speech and my thoughts. The burly man carries on speaking about such things as care is key and don't forget the PIN number 3845 for your supervisor, bellowing from his guttural gurgles. The burly man catches my attention as I slowly creep into a daydream. With a great big clap, a loud right, he begins to rub his hands. Matt and James, you two are on nighttime duty, so you'll get to know each other real well through the witching hours. Then Ralph and Dennis, you'll be in the daytime. He looks at everyone, waving his arms to and fro, looking expectantly for movement. So go and sit beside your work buddies, have a chat. I swivel around to look at James. He is already standing up. His lanky stature is rather daunting. He pulls his chair behind me, confident and assured of his movements. Geez, no wonder you're on patrol duty. I would have to take at least a couple of minutes to come and sit beside someone and chat. As James stops pulling his chair and rotates it around to face me, he sits down. Wonderful to meet you, Matt, my co-working fellow. I try not to let out a sigh at James and his positive posh tones. I give a grimacing smile, not knowing how to reply. Then someone catches my sight. The burly man is staring at us, rubbing his hands. Yes, he says under his breath. He looks like he should be in the patient wards. He snaps out of it by my glare and James's. Fantastic, right, here are your security packs, the burly man says, trying to move swiftly past this incident. He grabs 2 plastic bags on a table behind him, both with guns and torchlights, nestled beside maps, keys and guides, which include titles such as Security Guards for the Mentally Insane and Inclusivity, How to, and What's the Bloody Point of It All Anyway. The burly man looks at James. Since you, James, he points to James and then looks over to Dennis, and you, Dennis, are walking the holdings, you'll get a enforcement projectile. It's a gun. You've both taken the enforcement projectile safety training licensing course and passed, I hope. He crosses his finger in an exaggerated way with a grin. Please bring up your certificates and pick up your packets. The burly man finishes. James reaches into his pocket, grabs a small square piece of paper and unfolds it. I see a shiny gold stamp at the right hand corner of the paper, along with the letters Asians. I take it to be the final letters of congratulations, but I never get to see the full certificate as he wanders up to meet the burly man and Dennis. James hands over the certificate and picks the packet. I give him a sarcastic congratulations as he makes his way back. He gives a large smile and gives me both thumbs up, not realizing my sarcasm. James sits beside me. Right then, the burly man snaps, yet again rubbing his hands like he is just about to eat a juicy steak. Ralph and Matt, you two will be in the monitor room, the eye in the sky, so to speak. Matt, this will be an incredibly important role during the night, as it will only be you and James in the building at that time. And 12 patients, I reply back, my arms crossed. I wanted it to be under my breath, but it comes out rather loud. He gives an awkward chuckle, looking at me. Why just us? I break the awkwardness to question him. He tries to think of a response. Well, that's above my pay grade, sadly. Take it up with your supervisor. He brushes off my question. Don't worry, Matt. We'll sing songs or something. James reassures me in his posh accent that makes it come across as demeaning and sarcastic to my pessimistic views of humans. The burly man likes James's enthusiasm and seeks to give me some of his own. Yeah, this holding is very secure. Nothing can get out. The burly man fails to reassure me. All right, Ralph and Matt, come pick up your packs. The burly man avoids more questioning by holding up the packs and ushering me and Ralph over. I give a sigh, exerting myself, then stand up slowly, and I make my way to the burly man, my legs dead from not moving. I can now make out the burly man's name tag in my vision. It reads David. I grab the pack with Ralph following behind me. Once both of us have sat back down, in awkward silence, with a few coughs, David begins to speak. Now go speak together, get to know one another, mingle. David tries to motivate us in his bizarre, positive way. I shuffle over to Dennis to mingle. Hello, Dennis. Nice to meet you. I look down at my badge and point at it with a smirk. Dennis looks over to me. His brown curly hair trembles in slight shock of moving. He looks down at where I'm pointing, and then looks back towards me, his green eyes squinting in disappointment. I can see, thanks. Nice to meet you, Matt. He breaks through the awkwardness of my social ineptitude with a greeting. So, I let out a sigh of relief and put my hands down to my side. How did you end up in this job? I ask. It comes across like I'm already tired of working here. Just a temporary job. I'm going to be a detective. My inner northerner takes over in response. Give over. A harsh response, I realise, after I said it. He chuckles, not taking it as harsh, then replies, Yep, always wanted to be a detective. Now, I have a gun licence. I can take my final tests on the off time here and become a fully fledged detective in 2032. He looks proud of his plan for the future. I can't help but feel impressed. Ah, Detective Dennis. I give an evil, villain-like response. Haha, not yet, but soon. Well, good luck with your detective duties. Hopefully you can lock up some more loonies and keep me in a job. He smirks at my response. A loud ring penetrates the chatting. I look over to David, who is also bemused by what is causing the loud bell. He is staring up at the ceiling, looking around at the perforated tiles like a lost child. A crackle breaks over the ringing. It comes from David's walkie-talkie. He looks down towards it, as well as the whole room, our eyes firmly set on the waist of David. New patient approaching warehouse 22, over. A firm man's voice says through David's radio. Well, it's your lucky day. Come on, I'll give you a tour of the warehouse after we see a new resident for you four to keep an eye on, he says while he waddles over to the door. The remainder of the room follows him as the bell carries on ringing. Welcome to the main entrance to warehouse 22. He opens his arms out to the wide open forecourt. Its stark light highlights every concrete corner and every muttering scientist that walks above us, on the balconies and in front of us, preparing for the new patient. The alarm that blared through the meeting room has stopped ringing. David continues, You'll be clocking in here and going to get your 15th cup of coffee. Especially you two, Matt and James. He gives a weird eyebrow raise to me and James. He twitches up and down. It feels as if he's trying to attract a potential mate. A loud warning alarm wails from two flashing orange lights above the wall to the right of us. This stops David's twitching eyebrows, and he puts on his interested, serious face as he looks towards the alarm. I follow his gaze to the entrance door. The massive, dark door begins to open, and the sunlight begins to pierce straight forward like an unstoppable force, colliding with the unnatural bulbs of the warehouse. The light is halted by the shadow of a large square which begins to push more and more towards the opening. As the entrance fully finishes opening, the square reveals itself to be a security police van. A ginormous monster of a vehicle plods through the gap. I notice a small window allowing the patient to be seen in the police van. The patient has his face pressed up against the window, a smile reaching his pigeon-footed eyes. I am fixated on his gaze for some reason, like he has caught me in his grasp and he won't let me go. He crosses my vision and looks at me straight into my eyes, but it feels like he's looking past me, like there is something he sees but I cannot. His mouth now creasing from end to end. Creepy. Ralph startles me out of the patient gaze. I swing my eyes over to him. His bushy beard and bewildered face brings me some security, of which the stare of the patient sucked out of me. I see David looking around the room at Dennis and James, who are both in a gaze just like mine. David begins to click his fingers in front of Dennis. He jumps awake from his transfixed state. David then looks towards James, who is still in a gaze, mouth agape. James? James, hello? David talks towards him and waves his hand in front of his eyes, which breaks his trance. James looks around in shock.
Oh, sorry. What just happened?
James questions the group. The new patient came through. David gives the most obvious answer to James. David is now looking through his book that he holds and stops at one page. Patient 25 holding number 3. You'll be going by him every day, so don't get distracted by him too much. David looks around at me, James and Dennis. He slams his book shut with a loud snap. Right, let's get this tour going, shall we? David says in his overdramatic questioning tone. First and most importantly, the coffee machine. State-of-the-art, redacted hardware. The group begin to walk onward. My eyes begin to look at the police van, which is now at another door which begins to open. The entrance to the warehouse finishing its final closure, which seeps the natural light away, letting the artificial light to cover over the room, and the van to lead patient 25 to his confinements. Warehouse 22.